I basically grew up in an agricultural family in Florida, a fourth-generation citrus farmer. And I enjoyed the luxury of being mechanically inclined. I enjoyed the challenges of being able to make a piece of equipment better. In the late to mid-70s, I had collected some guns and I wanted to do things for the military. And in 1976, I went to SEAL Team 2 there at Little Creek, Virginia, and I repaired all of their Stoner 63s for them. One of my first contracts was building some silencers for the military in the late 70s, and we landed our first large silencer contract in 1982. We were a small, only 6 people, research and development company that we did a lot of testing, a lot of evaluation. I knew that Gene Stoner lived here in Florida, just a few miles away from where I live. So I looked up in the phone book and found a Eugene Stoner, and I called him one day at his house and started a conversation. He lived in Florida during the winter, and he lived back up north at Port Clinton, Ohio during the summer. We worked on some projects together. We did a lot of talking about what the military needed next. One day he said, you know, why don't we take and use the best of both worlds? Why don't we take the AR-15 and why don't we take my AR-10, which was in .308, and why don't we build a gun that is an AR-10 and an AR-15, and I'll just mix them together and we'll call it the SR-25. The first gun right out of the box was shooting half-inch, right, the very first gun that we built. One of the major things that when I saw our soldiers going into Panama and some of the soldiers going into Grenada, I noticed that they had taped their flashlights onto their carbines with duct tape. And I felt like that a simple interface of a clamping system that could be put on the weapon would make that work better. I remember asking Gene Stoner, well, why didn't you give me a location on this gun that you designed so that I could have a platform to mount things? And he said, well, Reed, he said, just exactly what is it that you would like to mount? And I said, I don't know, maybe a laser. He says, yeah, Reed. He said, I was really thinking about lasers in 1958. Today, we're building about 29,000 rail systems a month here. We've built over 500,000 rail systems that have gone on the M16, A2, A4, and the M4. Originally, I thought the only thing that was ever going to be attached to the weapon was a flashlight. I had no idea where the modularity and the uses that everybody would come up with since then. I remember going to Colt with the idea. I remember sitting in the conference room and said, you know, I got this idea and I want to show it to you. And I showed it to the guys there, and they said, well, who do you know that wants to buy this? I said, well, nobody that I know of. He said, is there a requirement for it? And I said, not that I know of. He said, well, when you go get a requirement for it, you come back to us and we'll build it for you. And I walked out there and I turned around and looked at him. I said, you know, if I get somebody who wants to buy this, I'm not going to need you then. I need you now. It took me 10 years to sell that idea to the military from that date. And today, we have sold over 500,000 rail systems to the government that we basically came up with the idea and said, you know, this is something that would work. And they're putting all kinds of things on it. I would like to think that we have given the soldier in the field either my son or someone else's son a better piece of equipment, a better tool for him to do his job and to bring him back alive.
American Rifleman is brought to you by Midway USA, Smith & Wesson, Night Rifles, Wheeler Engineering, Fine Gunsmithing Supplies, Springfield Armory, and Citron. We'll be right back with more American Rifleman TV, brought to you by Midway USA.